Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And my cards for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge, which I'm the host of, and I'm late as of filming this intro. Tech issues, man. The gremlins are just... Oh, anyway. I will have a link to the Color Throwdown Challenge in my blog post, which is linked directly below the video. It is just a challenge that's open to anyone. It's great for inspiration. The whole point is to use, colors that you normally wouldn't use together, etc. And yeah, it's just for fun and I love it. So I pulled out several sets of like wafer dies and a stencil, etc. Things that I've used in multiple videos in the past. I did a little playing around with a couple of distress sprays. I used like an oxide and a spray. Splatter, of course, simple ink blending, all the fun things. So, as always, I will have links below as well to all the supplies I used. All my links are affiliate links. That just means if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I get a little kickback at no extra cost to you. And then keep watching and I'll show you guys how I made my cards. So I was in sort of a mixed media mood when I started making this. So I pulled out some Canson XL watercolor paper. And this is the Lattice tile stencil. Really any sort of geometric stencil is going to work. And I'm applying paste over the stencil, not edge to edge, not doing it perfectly. I just want some texture. And I'm just using some Altenew paste for this. Just applying it with my palette knife, kind of in a circular-ish motion. And as always, since I've got two pieces, etc., because I had just a larger piece that I cut in half, might as well make two cards. So I applied the paste. It's mostly dry. Like I cleaned off my stencil, cleaned off my palette knife, let the paste mostly dry. This is going to be a theme. And I put it in my splat box, and I have my splat box upright, so to kind of just control some of the overspray. And I've started with Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide Spray. Sprayed that, added a bit of water, got some like drippy, movement going, that sort of a thing. And making quite the puddle. And that's when I was like, maybe I should add a little bit of paper towel to the bottom of this, because otherwise, oof. Especially with how much, again, those that have watched my videos for a while, that box is the OG, when it came out however many years ago. And mine has layers of sludge, which isn't a big deal, but when I get stuff like this going, it starts kind of reactivating some of those layers and it becomes a mess. Like you can actually see it in the corner there on the right hand side. The corner was starting to absorb the sludge. Not a big deal, but So I did that to the second panel. Just sprayed, added some water, mostly dried it. There's a theme. And then decided to add Hickory Smoke Distress Spray Stain. So this is obviously going to be a little bit darker because it doesn't have the pigments in it. And I'm not pressing the nozzle down fully. I'm only pressing it halfway. That's how you get the splotchy bits, which is just, it's fun. This can get messy. I like it. I know, like when the sprays first, it was the oxide sprays. I never had the spray stains originally. And then when they started releasing the oxide sprays, like, of course I couldn't resist, like anything Tim Holtz. But I started playing with them, and I do enjoy. There's something about just, it's not very unpredictable, So same thing. I did, some spraying and some splotchiness and let it mostly dry again. I would recommend, especially something this with paste and all the sprays, I would probably let these like sit overnight at least to just really fully dry. Do I have time like that? No. So I let it mostly dry and then keep going. So now I'm using my Gansai Tambi Starry colors, specifically this red gold shade, which like basically copper. And I'd already added water to it. So I've got my backgrounds now just laying in my splat box and my fan brush. And I just swirled up the water in that pan and then did heavy splatter on this, like big blotchy bits, which just kind of also seeped in between the stenciled areas, which is just fun. So after I did all of that, I am using several die sets. I've got the Lush Leaves die set. This came out recently. And like, I'm a sucker for anything like greenery type wafer dies. And I'm also using the fine floral stem, which I've used in a couple videos. And this time though, I'm only using the like kind of individual flowers from that wafer die. And I'm die cutting, I'm pretty sure the one is, the aqua color is Concord 9th cardstock. They both are. The berry sort of color, that's wild berry. And then the aqua color is Aqua Sky, I think it's called. Just an aqua color and as close to burgundy as I could get with my cardstock. And as always, you can just do white cardstock, and then because I'm going to add ink blending, because what was supposed to be, these were originally meant, like in my head, I was going to go a little more clean and simple, but one, I've talked about this, clean and simple for me, I actually struggle with quite a lot because I like adding everything but the kitchen sink. And since my backgrounds ended up being very splattery, splotchy texture, everything, I didn't want the die cuts to be just plain. So after doing the die cutting, I stuck the greenery ones to one of my grippy mats, and I'm doing just very simple blending. I'm using a couple different shades of positively saturated ink, the first one being Surf, and then one of my Waffle Flower 1+ shader brushes. And this is obviously very, very much sped up in editing. I don't blend this quickly, but I kept the blending like more towards like the stems of these, and then with a very light hand I went in with Ocean just to deepen it up just a smidge. But like I said, you could also do something like this, like die cut it from white cardstock, which I've shown in a bunch of videos, and just do all ink blending, you know, to get it the color you want. And if I had done that, I would have used the lightest shade as like my base, and then added the medium, added the dark. Same with these florals. I'm using Sangria and Cabernet inks. So starting with the Sangria, which is the medium shade, and same thing, using a little 1+ shader brush, and just kind of keeping that to the centers of these little floral die cuts. And then after I had added this color, I'm going to take an even tinier brush, which is the 0+ little shader brush, and I'm going to go in with that Cabernet color, which is much deeper. And by this point, that ink had dried, which on camera, it looks like I didn't do anything. But these inks do, you know, dry back, soften, smooth out, etc., etc. In real life, you could still see the blending I did, but it's just funny in editing. It's like, oh, it looks like I did nothing, but I did. It's fine. So then I went in with that Cabernet and that little brush and just, you know, added that, and same thing. This will like dry back and soften a fair bit. But it gives it that depth that I love. I just love it. So after I did all of my ink blending on all these little die cuts, I'm going to wipe off my grip mat, set that aside. My backgrounds, again, are mostly dry, not fully dry. I do recommend letting stuff like this dry, because especially like trimming things down, all of that, like cardstock can tear. I was getting like schmutz all over everything, including my like paper cutter here. Like I would say, I need more hours in the day. Anyway, I trimmed my backgrounds down because they were bigger than an A2 card when I started, and then I trimmed them down to about 4 inches by 5 1/4, just slightly smaller than an A2 card base. So I trimmed all those down, got schmutz all over everything else, and then realized I needed to literally wipe down my paper trimmer, so we're good to go. And then I'm using the Grateful and Thankful pre-printed sentiment strips. I have used these in a ton of videos. I've repurchased these, I think, a couple times because I use them so often. So I trimmed those down for my sentiments. And then I couldn't resist adding little dragonflies to my cards. This is kind of like my OG favorite. This is the little etched dragonfly wafer die that I've used, again, like a billion times. And the wings I die cut from some Tonic brushed copper. I think it's called brushed copper. Copper mine. There's so many different names of things. Anyway, just a copper metallic cardstock, which is lovely. I don't use copper very often, but it's pretty. And even though it technically isn't part of the like specific colors we chose for this challenge, the inspiration picture had some copper in it, and I was like, oh, I'm adding copper because it's beautiful. So anyway, I assembled my little dragonflies. The bodies I die cut from some just dark gray cardstock, and then adhered my little copper die cut wings. I talked about this in a recent video. I used a different die set from Simon, and I die cut some like similar metallic cardstock with a very like detailed etched die. I love it. Like, I love how these wafer dies now have so much detail, like, you know, all this like piercing and etching and debossing, etc. And it gets fun when you start using like specialty cardstocks with it, especially the metallics. They really, it shows up really well, all that detail. So let my dragonflies dry, reverse tweezers for the win, because they can just pinch everything. So, you know, it's like having extra little hands. So those are sitting drying. I used that same dark gray cardstock for the flower centers for all these flowers. So I'm going to stick all those to the little blooms using my little embellishment wand to pick everything up, press it into the glue, same thing, let that all dry. And then off camera, I assembled one of the cards because sometimes it's just nice. That's another reason why I like making more than one, because it's like, oh, I can sit and fiddle, figure out what, you know, where I want everything to go just off camera. So I'm not worrying about like filming. You guys don't see me like knocking things over, being interrupted 5 million times. Like, just life is chaos. Anyway, so I got everything assembled. So then now I'm following it all now while I'm filming. So I look much more like I know exactly what I'm doing because I'm so professional. Anyway. I also trimmed down. I've got some random, this stuff's really thick, but I hate it. It's got like a weird texture to it, but I've got like a stack of this like cardstock, you know, that I don't like. I don't like to ink blend on it. I don't want to stamp on it. It's just, honestly, it's ick, but it's really thick. So I like doing things like this where I'll trim it down and I'll use it to just kind of bump up my layers. So it'll give it, you know, a little bit of dimension. So that's what I did for the background. I just adhered that piece of ick cardstock to the back of it and then adhered it to my card base. So did that. And then I start adhering all of my little greenery, my florals, just using my craft tacky glue to get these all into place. And then for that little sentiment strip, I'm going to pop that up with just some thin little foam squares so that, again, it's got a little bit of dimension, but also I have a lot of like kind of texture going on between like the texture paste and the die cuts and whatnot. So got those into place, and then I can pop my little foam squares onto the sentiment strip, get that into place, and then I can adhere my little dragonfly, which, yeah, I need to use my metallic cardstocks like for things like this more often because it's fun. So stuck him into place, and then as my final little bit of embellishment, I of course had some bling that was very matchy. These are Trinity stamps, port wine, like confetti basically. So figured out where I wanted to place these onto this card, and I kind of purposely put them around the greenery because it's like, oh, they kind of mimic the flowers. So once I was happy with the placement, I'm going to adhere these into place with the craft tacky glue again, using my embellishment wand again. Once these are adhered, these cards are complete. So I made a huge mess with all my sprays, made a huge mess of my cutting tools and work surface, all the fun things, but I had fun making these. And like I said in the intro, I will have a link to my blog post posted below the video, and you can like click on over there, and then I'll have a link to the color throwdown challenge, etc., that you can check out if you want just more inspiration or to also play along. And then as always, I will have links below the video to all of the supplies I use, so you can check those out below if you are interested. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping and commenting, letting them robot overlords know you like what you see. It genuinely helps. I genuinely appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.